chicos, buenas tardes, espero que estén bien. We're going to start today on the first grammar point of this chapter called verbos sandalias or flip-flop verbs. And you can find these notes in the back of your packet. I think it's the third to last thing that you see in your packet. But also you can see it here. You can download one of the copies attached to this post. So without further ado, there are actually three types of verbos sandalias we're going to take a look at. E to I, O to U, and it doesn't show up at the top there, but I to Y. And the notes are go like this. It says, by this point, everyone should, please, know what a boot verb is. Right? A boot verb is a verb that has some kind of stem change in some kind of stem change in every form other than the nosotros form or the vosotros form. If you learned that last year with Senora Eisenhower. Remember that in the present tense there are all sorts of boot verbs. O to U-E, E to I-E, E to I, U to U-E. And when you draw the conjugation chart, it looks like a boot, which is why they're called boot verbs. And to this point, whenever we talk about boot verbs, we're always talking about the present tense, things that take place now. The preterite tense, though, the tense we've been working with for the past month and a half or so, also has its own types of boot verbs, except that they're not boot verbs. When you draw like a line around the conjugation chart, they don't look like a boot because it doesn't include the yo and the tu form. It is what we'll call a flip-flop verb, or in Spanish, un verbo sandalia. So just in the way that with boot verbs, everything inside the boot changes, similarly with flip-flop verbs, everything inside the flip-flop changes. Everything inside that bottom part of the conjugation chart. What do I mean by that? Just the ele usted and ellos ellas ustedes forms change. So today we care about three types of flip-flop verbs: E to I, O to U, and I to Y. And I think I've actually made this change since the notes were printed in your packet. So if you need to just add the I to Y at the end of that last sentence to the notes, feel free to do so. So let's take a look at two examples. So E to I verbs, let's take a look at the verb servir, which is to serve. If you were to conjugate that normally, you would drop the IR and then add the appropriate endings for the IR verb in the preterite. So it would be yo serví, tú serviste, nosotros servimos. But as you can see there in the little box, both the ella, ele, usted form and the ellos, ellas, ustedes forms change in their stems from an E to an I. Ella sirvió and ellos sirvieron. And I bolded that. Typically, you would expect that to be an E. But that's the point of these notes because they are flip-flop verb changes. Similarly, O to U verbs, an example that would be dormir, which is to sleep. You drop the IR to conjugate it. Yo dormí, tú dormiste, nosotros dormimos. But in the preterite, it has that O to U change. Ella durmió, D-U instead of D-O, and ellos durmieron. So those are two types of flip-flop verbs, and you can see there's some other verbs that function like that. Right here, some other E to I-E verbs and some other O to U-E verbs. I'm not going to go through those, but you can take a minute to write those down. I'm going to pause this. And then the final type of verb that I want to take a look at is I to Y verbs. An example of this would be leer, which means to read. So typically what you would do again is drop the ER and add the ER/IR verb endings, right? So yo leí, tú leíste, nosotros leímos. But if you were to conjugate it normally for ella, you would drop the ER and add I-O with an accent. But what's going to happen is that I is going to change to a Y, as you see there. Ella leyó. Same deal with the ellos form. It would be, if you were to drop the ER, it would be L-E-I-E-R-O-N. But instead the I gets swapped out for a Y. Ellos leyeron. And then you see three other verbs there that do the same thing. Leer, which we already talked about, creer, which is to believe, and oír, which is to hear. So chicos, just copy these notes down for tomorrow. Come with any questions that you have, and we will start to practice with this concept tomorrow. Nos vemos mañana. Adiós.